2 of running an encounter where we are going to go a little further down the page until we get to this section, encounter start. Once again, this is in the Dungeon Master's Guide, the running an encounter article. And we have some more steps that we can follow. But before we get to that, I noticed an oversight on the Vani token. I actually didn't configure an implement for him. So just to do a quick and dirty thing, I just did weapon to implement under arsenal, and that copied his staff to the implement list on his token. And even then, I had to add an enhancement bonus just to make things interesting. And I think I bumped up his MH feet or MH feet, KF feet value too, just so we have some numbers there to work with for implement powers. So that's very important. Watch the arsenal video. Make sure that your players are happy with the way their weapons and implements are configured. That's very important because they won't get the bonus they're entitled to if they're not when they're running their powers, because the MPB does look at that section of the macro to make sure that those keywords are in place. And I guess that's it. We can actually start. But just on the side note, if you made a mistake when you do that validation token ownerships and one of these guys is not supposed to be in combat for whatever reason, you want him to come in round 2 or 3 because he's standing behind a pillar or something biding his time, what you can do is you can click on that guy and then go disengage, and that will take him out of combat. And when he's ready to come back in combat, you can go tactical initiative on him or act now. Act now is probably a better thing to do under the common free no menu right there. But we will assume for our purposes here that both are participating and they see each other and things are going to get thrown down. So we're going to click back on the MPB and go back to step 2 where it says click the begin encounter macro on the MPB. And there's a bunch of implications to doing that as well. And let's see what happens when we actually do that. Begin encounter, this is it. And it's going to say going to confirm ceiling height. If it's 0, that means it's unlimited height, which is the truth because the sky's the limit, literally, because they're outside in the grass, as you can see for the grasslands map. We'll say okay. If you set that to 4 or something, then the highest altitude they can go is 3. But none of these guys can fly, so it doesn't matter. So total encounters completed today, as it says in the steps. If you have already done 2 encounters today and this is the 3rd one, then put this to 2. It keeps automatic track of that when you run end encounter, but we'll say this is the first one of the day and say okay. And notice that it gives us the initiative order in this little frame. You can keep that open if you want to, because as you can see, only the first guy has been added to the initiative panel. This is not a bug. This is done intentionally. The reason why is if you put all the guys in here, see in the panel, there are 3 participants, put them all in, that's not technically wrong. I mean, I know other systems do that, but I think this is cooler because what happens is you don't know who's going to be going next. So there's excitement and anticipation as your players watch the initiative panel, wondering who's going to be next. They know when they'll be next, but they don't know about the monsters. So we can actually get rid of this frame right there. But it is now Bony Guy Blue's turn. So what we do is, as the DM, we're going to click on Bony Guy Blue, look at his selection panel, and say, what do we want to do? How about we charge Vani? First of all, let's actually move the info token to a commonly reachable spot, shall we say. It's best to put the MPB and the info token into a place where nobody's going to stand, like inside a wall or inside a pillar or a statue or something like that. That way they don't interfere with each other, but it still has to be conveniently reachable for everyone. So put them central in a central feature that cannot be occupied by another token, whatever that may be. So Bony Guy Blue, we'll have him charge. Goes right up to Vani, swinging his longsword. And let's see what he does. That longsword power is under at will. So watch what happens when we click at will. It doesn't bring us into our choices of at will options right away. It says, hey, wait a second, you got to start your turn first, dude. So we say yes. Okay, we do want to start our turn. Okay, and the clock starts. The system clock will monitor how much time you take now. Just to speed things along, it'll give you a message if you take too long. Did you charge? Yes, we did. Okay. And that's pretty good. Not that it needs to be. Hear that? That's another sound effect that lets you know you're charging. An audio clue, and we'll say okay, and that'll easily hit because Vani's AC is not that good. So you hear the squish sound, which indicates a hit. And this is actually pretty difficult to see, but there is a green halo. I know green background's not the best choice for this, but on a regular map, you should see this come up if the background's like a light brown or something. And that indicates a hit. The dark background halo around the attacking token indicates, hey, this is the guy that's taking his turn now. And of course, the green triangles indicate that as well. So that was the 2-hit macro that we just saw, the attack macro that we just saw give us those numbers. Now, this is called the damage macro. And it's rolled a 1d8. It's looked at the power and says, I know the longsword does a d8, and it has rolled a 4 for you. By the way, don't blame me if you don't like the number, and don't praise me if you do like the number here, because what the framework does is it asks Map Tool, hey, listen, I need a 1d8, and Map Tool actually gives me this number, which I put in this field for you. So don't write to me and say, hey, Starman, your framework sucks. It gave me awful rolls. Well, dude, it's not me that's giving you the rolls. I'm just reporting them, so don't shoot the messenger. And you get a 2 bonus for that power, so for a total of 6. So we'll say okay. Keep looking at the chat window. All these system messages that you see here, click here to run activate RV and play clip, that's all for the sound effects. I have had some feedback from my own group saying, come on, why do we need to have all this stuff in here? Guys, I can't do it any other way. You have to have all this stuff in order to deliver these sound effects and the handouts and whatever, triggered actions to you. That's just the way it is. That's the way Map Tool works. Just ignore it and skip over it until you get to the stuff that's interesting. It will come up in your own personal win frames on your turn. So, you know what? Side note here, I have had feedback from my players saying, "Hey, I didn't get this dialogue here." So, guys, I don't know what you're talking about. There it is, right there. So I'm gonna get my players to actually watch this video and say, yeah, I can't replicate what you're saying about this notification window coming up after you charge, but you have to end your turn after a charge. So we'll say okay there, because he doesn't have any action points to spend. That would be an option there too. And here's the message I was talking about. It tells me I took over 130 seconds for my turn. The formula that I've chosen, and this is completely arbitrary, you can say this is unreasonable if you want, is you get 100 seconds to complete your turn plus 10 seconds for every level you are. This guy is 3rd level, hence 130 seconds. So just over 2 minutes is considered reasonable to complete your turn. There's no penalty if you don't. It's just saying, guys, we want to keep the game moving. So finish your turn as quickly as you can. As you can see, the next guy is added and the green check mark is put beside him. So that is Bony Guy Red. So what's he going to do? We will have him, let's say he's super fast, and he's able to move to there and charge to here. Remember, this is not meant to be a realistic combat. I'm just showing you some basic pointers right here. So notice that when he was hit by the longsword, Vani got a state on him. See that little bullseye pinwheel state there? If we look at the pop-up, that is the stat sheets that's happening in the lower left corner there, look at the second last line, marked by Bony Guy Blue. So we know who Vani has been marked by. That's an extra visual reference that we have. So he knows who to attack next, because you don't want to ignore the guy who is marking you. And watch what happens when Bony Guy Red attacks. He's going to swing his long sword. He's going to start his turn first, of course. And it's asking, did we charge? We'll say yes.
Charge!
Now, ooh, critical. That's not good. Anyway, notice that we have charging a bonus of 1. It gives you all the bonuses you're entitled to. Check these. Always check these to make sure that they are correct. And his base is 10. But here's what I wanted to show you. Look at this. Granting CA, and it gives you a bonus of 2. Hmm. How did it know that? How did it know that we're flanking? That's a good question. The answer is about a week of work on my part. I put together an algorithm to check all the spatial positions of the combatants in the particular area occurring in the attack. And it has gone to Vani and says, listen, what of my allies do you have beside you? That's what Red is asking behind the scenes. The attack power macro calls a macro called test for flank, and that looks all around and finds, aha, there is an ally. Hey, Mr. Red, you have an ally I found called Mr. Blue, Bony Guy Blue. And it checks the positions of that token against red. Is it opposite in respect to corners, or is it opposite with respect to sides? It has found that it is at a corner. That was extremely difficult to program. It's easy for you and I as human beings to figure that out, but teaching a computer to do it is very, very difficult. But when I finally got that right, I said, yeah, awesome. So that works 100% of the time perfectly. So, yeah. Not that we need it, of course, after all that big long explanation, because he got a critical, he's going to hit, and this is going to hurt. I bumped up Vani's hit points, so.
A scratch? Your arm's off. No, it isn't. Well, what's that then? I've heard worse.
Haha. Any Monty Python fans out there? A classic line from the Holy Grail. So you'll get that if you critical. You'll also get this. We can't actually look at that yet. So we'll save that for later. Criticals damage. Yes, that's 10. We'll say okay. And now he has marked him. So we not only do we have the CA state on him from the flank, but he has now been bloodied because he's getting sliced by these long swords pretty badly. And we also have a clip for bloodied, which is pretty long, so let's not play it. You can play it if you want to when you run your games. But another pretty cool thing is, yes, we will end his turn. And we'll get another wagging of the finger at us because we took too long. But another cool thing this framework does, it gives you notifications, and this is a funny one. How many other VTTs out there have humor as one of their features? I don't just want this to be a D&D game. D&D is supposed to be fun. And it's supposed to be funny. At least I think it is. So I actually found this graphic and I put it on the MMHOF, I believe. And it will show that to all your players. And we'll see. I'll get rid of that to rub it in that we have just gotten a critical. So, but you know what? I'm guessing the guy who's playing Vani is not laughing very hard because he's just gotten marked again. He's gotten marked by red. See how the marked by in the lower left, the second bottom line, has changed to red. So it's not looking good for poor Vani. So what he's going to do is on his turn, he is actually going to get out of dodge. He's going to move, and that, of course, is going to provoke the guy who's playing the skeletons is going to say, which of course you as the DM, going to say, hey, that provokes. So I get to take an opportunity attack. So let's look at opportunity attacks. Red will take one. You'll notice in your quick group, you have an opportunity attack quick button because that's a common, well, anyway, we'll assume it's a common thing for this combat. And we click that. Notice that we don't have to move first. I'll explain why. Opportunity attack. See that? It teleports him to Vani's location so we can do the opportunity attack. We'll say okay there. It takes the attack, and then it'll put him back after we do our damage. We'll say okay to the damage, and it'll put him back to where he came from. And it won't actually do that if it's already in range. Now, do you hear that snoring? That's bad because see how it puts him back there. Vani has just been put down, so I actually didn't put his hit points up, like I said. So that's why you see from the second line there, he's at -1 hit points. Now that's no good. So let's just adjust his HP and say that he has some magical power that lets him recover, and we'll give him his full hit points back. It's a little sluggish because the memory is getting filled up, and that's good because I want to highlight that. Enter Rumble Expression. We'll actually say -24 to put him back up. Minus stands for healing because it's negative damage, which is healing, as denoted by the framework, and we'll give him real hit points, of course. And all the states, which put him down to -5 across all his defenses because of the unconscious condition, there's a sound effect for healing, will be taken off. Now, look at down here. The memory is getting up there. It's at 10.2 gigabytes on the right number. It's not too bad on the left number, 2.56 gigabytes. But it's getting up there. You want to be continually double-clicking that to clear your memory. Otherwise, you might get an out-of-memory error. See how it's gone to half a gig now? So we're looking good there. So he is going to start his turn, as he has, and he's going to get his revenge. We'll say blue foregoes his opportunity attack for whatever reason. And we got the A-boss there. He says, well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stand up because he was prone. So that's his move action. Stand up, so he gets a bonus move action in addition to moving away from them. And he's going to run a area burst power. The way we do that, it's an area burst 1 within 10 squares. The way we do that to target it is we put the A boss in the center of the area. If it's an area burst 1, it's going to be a 3x3 area. So we are going to enclose this area right here. And that is the center spot for that area. So that is where we want the A boss to be put. So we're going to cast an encounter power. The whirlwind, that remember we got that whirlwind from Sparkle, the other character, and it asked for verifying the altitude of the A boss. They're both on the ground, so we'll put that on the ground as well, which is altitude 0. And we'll say okay, and we get some major revenge because we get another critical. Why can't I roll like this in a regular session when I'm with my players? Oh well, that's a side complaint. And yeah, check out, make sure that your bonuses, we're getting our ability modifier right there. Look at this, we're getting our staff enhancement and feat, which remember I said at the beginning, you'll see that at the beginning of this transcript where I edited the implement to give those. So, well, actually copied from the weapons list to the implement list, which is what sword mages will do because they can use their weapon as their implement. So not that it matters because we got a 20. So we get the shirt back again. So that looks good. And against the other guy, it's going to roll not so good. And we get the Holy Grail. Hear that knock? That's a miss. Now, red indicates a critical, and blue, you see around these guys, indicates a miss. So actually we got it's difficult for the colors, but that's actually the critical right there. Oh, sorry, this is the critical right here because critical is damage to bony guy blue. See how we have the blue outline around him? That's how we can tell that's the blue guy. So my mistake there. We'll say okay, and we did get the crit dice for our implement, so that looks good. Okay. and it will run through, and we get output in the chat there. And we will get a frame at the end of this turn in our status frame to show us that we did some actions during this turn. So he's quite satisfied with himself. He is going to end his turn. Do we want to run status? Sure. Let's take a look to see what it has for us. This tabulates all the information on your token. That ding ding is the round bell. And we get some information here. We are shown the status of our token. It shows us what XP we have, what our current HP total is, how many action points and power points if that's applicable. This is important too. Active effects, all the effects you have on you. Let's talk about this. You are responsible for knowing all the effects on you. And the states are an indicator, but they're not an absolute tell-all factor for knowing all the effects on you. This list will be given to you when you start your turn in the start my turn macro. Watch the chat for those. And you should know whether you're immobilized or not. If you're immobilized, then don't try to be taking a move action. If you do, the framework's going to ding you for that and say, hey, what are you doing? You're immobilized. You shouldn't be moving. Again, attention to detail there. And arsenal, we see all the weapons we have. Implements, we see that we have a staff implement now. And let's see, skill check history, it showed what we did, checking out the monster knowledge on the skeletons. Exploits this turn, that's everything you did. Remember how I said you can find out which effects are on you? Well, that's what was on you at the start of this turn. That's what was on you. Active effects is at the end when we run status. So, and we also see that we ran some macros here. We did that adjust HP, so it shows that, where we got the 25 hit points back. And we also have Whirlwind. We see there's the critical hits that we did. It tells you all the stuff you did, so that's kind of cool. So if your DM says, hey, what did you actually roll against the other guy that you didn't critical? I want to check. And then you can tell him, because it says, misses, bony guy red. We got a 9. And it gives you all kinds of useful stuff. And recently sustained stuff. And stuff I own. All these are all the tokens that I own that are on the board right now. We got some monster knowledge, which we can use the next time that we come across a skeleton warrior, which you'll be forced to use. You'll have to use that number, which I don't think that makes sense, that rule, but I won't. Let's not talk about that now. And yeah, so the last macro run by any token is here. It doesn't have to be Vani, but it just so happens that he was the last one. And we have the defined triggers here. These will all be run at the appropriate times. When these actions happen, these triggers will go forth. So we can close that. So it is Bony Guy's Blue's turn. So what are we going to do for him? Remember to clear these frames out. And remember, he's not looking too bad there, so that's cool. Well, he's pretty shaken that he has sustained a critical. So let's say he stands up for his turn. We can go actions and combat. It's going to say start my turn. Sure. And remember, we talked about the context sensitivity. We do have the stand up available now because he's prone. We won't have it otherwise. And it shows the stand up in the chat. And he says, oh boy, I don't want to get hit like that again. So he's going to go on total defense. Because let's say he's low on hit points after that critical. He needs to bide his time and hope that the cavalry is going to come over the hill to save him, because he's not too confident in red there. So we get another state. See that shield with the +2 on it? It's kind of hard to see because of the initiative reticle, but that's all good. And that's all he can do this turn. He's taken a move and a standard, so he's going to end his turn. We didn't get a notification that time because we did that in a very timely fashion. And red is going to say, hey, you can't do that to my buddy, and he's going to charge again. And he's going to swing his longsword. Start my turn, yes. Yes, we charged.
Charge!
Wow, these guys are getting good rolls. So we hear another squish sound. Notice that we have a health bar atop our token. That's for a visual representation for how much damage that you're taking. Yes, we will end our turn. And Vani's going to attack him because he has him marked. So he's going to forget about blue. And remember how we did the whirlwind? It did include that guy in the mark, but let's actually illustrate that. He will shift, and actually that's too much, and he will fire at the guy who doesn't have him marked. Let's see what happens when we do that. He'll do a lightning strike. Which is a ranged attack. And we will go to blue. Look at this. We get a notification from the framework saying, hey, wait a second, you sure you want to do that? Bony Guy Red has you marked, and you're ignoring him. Continue versus Bony Guy Blue. We say, yes, we want to attack anyway. So we are going to attack. Look at this. We get -2. It has noted the fact that we're ignoring the marker. And by the way, you can set a trigger for that too, for ignoring marker. If you ignore the marker, then you can, like Bony Guy Blue can put a trigger on Vani saying, hey, you ignore me, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to run this power. We haven't done that for this. We can save that for another time. And he gets a -2 to hit. So is he going to hit? No, he's not. We get the knocking sound effect. So we know right away that we didn't hit. And we get blue, which indicates a miss. So he's going to say he gets another bonus action to fly. We're going to illustrate now the 3D nature of the framework. And in order to do that, we have to spend an action point. So let's actually go to actions in combat and spend an action point to take that extra move action. Remember, I said it's a bonus, so this is how we get the bonus. And again, this blackness here, that's a bug, and we will do close overlay, or you can hit any macro to clear it too. It will close it automatically. So let's go, instead of, say he wants to go 5 squares up in the air. I have had my players do this. They will click the altitude +1 5 times. Don't do that because there's extra processing for that. And it's going to do that 5 times or 4 times as the case may be. And that's just needless extra processing. You can go tactical, clears the overlay, and then just run altitude. Say okay, and just put in the number 5 here. Say okay, and he flies up into the air, and we will see another state here, and we get the elevator ding there that shows he's going up, and we see the flying state on him that you can see right there. And notice the pop-up sheet at the very bottom, it now says altitude 5. So the poor skeletons are watching this guy rise into the air, and what the hell are they supposed to do now? Because they've just got long swords. So it's not really going to go well for them if they want to keep fighting him. And we will end his turn. Run status. No, we won't do that. We did that last time. Another round ending signal right there. And by the way, another one of these steps was to run surprised if that's applicable. So that was the 3rd step right there. And we've been going through the rest of these steps as we've been going along. So you can read those and actually mimic the actions if you so desire. So in whatever way you want, or your players want, both. So We are now at round 3, as it says right there. Let's say at this point we have a disaster. It didn't properly process going up to Bony Guy Blue again. Let's say for whatever reason, Vani got taken out of initiative unexpectedly, or it went down to red, but when red ended his turn, it went back up to blue again. So the stored initiative order has been damaged somehow by some mishap or some update failure, which does happen if you have a poor machine for your server machine, if it's not very powerful, or you I don't know, you have a bad network connection and there's a hiccup or something, which happens to me actually. My ISP can be a little flaky at times. So we need to repair this somehow. We forget which initiative Vani was, which is fine because we actually see the initiative value in the third last line in the pop-up sheet. But just for the sake of argument, we want to say, hey, Macro Police Box, please restore the initiative to what it was. We can do that. So click on the MPB and we can go restart round. Confirm ceiling height again, 0, that's fine. Look at that. It puts them all back in. And what we can do is we can go to the round counter right here and put the green check mark on the guy who has the initiative. And look at that. It gave us round 3 again. It's smart enough to know that we're going to be restarting at round 3. So we're back in business. So we can go to blue and he says, you know what? I'm going to take off. Like that critical, that didn't sit well with me. I'm out of here. So he runs. He takes a double run. And we do that by indicating on actions in combat, we can do the run macro. And that will give us more running speed. We'll say okay. And we get another sound effect to indicate running and another state along with the run state, which we see in the chat here. Let's take a moment to clear our memory. There's no such thing as clearing your memory too often. Whenever you remember to do it, do it. It'll run a bit faster if you do. So so he says, I'm out of here. He's gone. So he's going to end his turn. Vani lets him go and says, we get some drumming to indicate a turn ending situation. And red is going to do the same thing. So we will start his turn. And you can also do it this way. If you have monsters which have used a recharge power and you want to first see if it recharges, use the start my turn macro in quick. And that will do the recharge operation first. That way, when you go to actually do your actions, you can say, aha, that power recharged. I can use it now. So red is going to take, we won't do the run macro. We've already seen that on blue. He goes crazy, like his speed is 5. So let's see what happens if he goes 14. Okay, so it looks like he was able to do a double move. That might be a bug. It's supposed to actually say, no, you're not allowed to do that. But okay, so I'll look at that later. But all right, so he's taken off too. And you don't actually have to kill these guys in order to indicate the fact that they're running away. You can if you want to. You can click on the MPB and you can go kill monster. And go Bony Guy Blue. Sure, it doesn't matter which one you kill. He's the other guy. And sure, we'll play that clip. Kill Bony Guy Blue.
Please help. Please help.
That's actually the bloodied state. Now, he needs to be actually taken out of initiative. Whenever you have, it's supposed to do this automatically, and it will do it, try to do it in a server situation, but we're in a standalone situation now. You want to disengage. You want to get your dead tokens out of the initiative order. They're not supposed to be there. They're out of the combat, so we disengage him. Look at that. He is teleported to the grave. Makes sense, right? Because he's dead, he gets taken to the grave. So he was undead, now he's dead again. All right, so and red is going to take off too, and we'll disengage him as well. Vani is victorious. He is the only guy left in initiative. Now, if I'm right, if I've coded this correctly, any button here now is going to let him run a rest. So, like, let's try common free no. It did. It's not supposed to give us this menu. It's supposed to give us the common free no menu, which you will see in that video. And you can also see by hovering over. But it's smart. It knows, listen, there are no NPCs left in the initiative order, so the combat must be over. The encounter's over. Therefore, you need to rest now. So you can do adjust HP or surge, but we are going to do short rest. Or if it's the end of the day, you can do extended rest. But as we said at the beginning of the video, there have been 0 encounters completed today. So we'll just go short rest. And we get some peaceful birds chirping. And we get some output in the chat. It gave us some stats. That's pretty cool. Our attacks, we got 9.6 average. And saves, we didn't do any saves. And on our skills, we got 14.5. So it looks like a good encounter overall for Vani. So he's cheering. He's happy. Again, in an actual situation, we're going to have multiple PC tokens, obviously. Hopefully you will. Anyways, that's obviously a more fun game. But that's it. That's how combat is handled. And once the resting is done and your initiative panel is clear, we can go end encounter. And then it says award points too. And yes, we want to award points and check both these guys because he defeated both of them. Say okay. XP scaling factor, it's going to be on a 1-to-1 basis. If you as a DM say, hey, that was too easy, guys, I'm only giving you half XP, you can set that number to 0.5. But he earned it, so we'll give him full XP. You can set it to double if you want, if it was like a really hard encounter and you want to reward your players more. But 99% of the time, I just leave it at 1. As you can imagine, encounter value, again, same thing here. It was a regular encounter, so just do 1. But if they also did a skill challenge beforehand and you didn't do an end encounter, as you shouldn't for a skill challenge, then you can click on 2. So I do that when there's like 2 in quick succession and we didn't have time to do an end encounter for the first one. So we'll just do a regular encounter value for this one of 1. And look at this. It awards XP. So if you, with your virtual tabletop, you need to do an Excel spreadsheet tallying all of the XP, well, you don't got to do that anymore now that you're using the macro police box. That is done for you. Not only is that done for you, it calculates how far away you are from the next level, and it will level you up if you go over the next threshold. So how cool is that? And that's it. That is our sample combat. And yours will be much longer, hopefully, and more exciting, but that just basically illustrates combat in the MPB. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching.